In this video, we're talking about how now is the best time to buy a PlayStation 5, whether or not the 8TB PS5 should even exist, and how to speed up your PS5 by up to double. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to PSReady. This is the early week update here on the channel. Separate Ways, I played it last week. It is phenomenal. The Resident Evil DLC, I'm still not through it. I thought it was going to be like a 2-hour thing, but then I saw it was $10. It ended up being like a full 6 to 8 hour campaign as Ada, which is so cool. If you have not played the DLC for Resident Evil 4 yet, you definitely should jump on that. I'm also excited, obviously, to check out Cyberpunk 2077's Phantom Liberty DLC. I don't really want to play a whole new playthrough. I've played that game once. I kind of 100%ed it. I do want to try the new DLC though, so I was glad to see you can just skip right to level 15 and play the new expansion. But yeah, let me know what you played this weekend down in the comments below. All right, the first news story I want to talk about today is that now is officially the best time to buy a PlayStation 5 because of Sony's new promotion. So if you pick up a PlayStation 5 from now until October 20th, once you activate it on the PlayStation Network, like you plug it in, connect it to the internet, update it, do all that fun stuff, once it connects to your account, you will be able to select a completely free digital game to keep forever from a list of really good games. So the games Sony is offering are Spider-Man Miles Morales, Spider-Man Remastered, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Ghost of Tsushima's Director's Cut, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Demon's Souls, The Last of Us Part 1, Sackboy: A Big Adventure, Returnal, Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection, and Death Stranding Director's Cut. Now, if I had to pick a top 3 off of this list, it would definitely be God of War Ragnarok, Death Stranding Director's Cut, and 100% The Last of Us Part 1. I know Last of Us Part 1, a little bit contentious to throw on a list like this, but I don't think this game's going to end up on PS Plus for quite a long time, mainly because of how successful the show was, right? Like, they put out this whole remake last year in September to make sure it was ready to go. It's like 50 or 60 bucks, and then when the show came out, the sales of that remake went up quite a bit, as well as the remastered PS4 version. So if they're printing money on a game like The Last of Us Part 1, you can bet that it's going to take even longer for it to show up on the PlayStation Extra library. And even putting that aside, even though they cut out the multiplayer mode, this is one of the best looking, playing, and I guess sounding games in this generation and pretty much ever. They rebuilt it from the ground up, and I know people were saying, oh, they just put a skin over it, but no, it really does feel like a full ground up remake. And the way Joel controls is less like he did in the PS3 and PS4 versions, where it feels like he's magneted to the ground and sort of just like has a stake in him and it's driving him around like on rails. It feels like you're actually moving, and honestly, I'd liken the way Joel plays to how Abby plays in The Last of Us Part 2. So it's already got points for me there. Also, this is one of the most technically sound games I've played yet on the PlayStation 5. I played it a few times. I didn't platinum it just because I played The Last of Us so many times. But the only bug I ever ran into was one part of the game where Joel and Ellie, like, I reloaded a save and they're both T-posing and I can float around the map. I'm pretty sure I have a video of it, so I'll use that as B-roll if I still have it. But in like 30 or 40 hours of gameplay, only having one bug, especially in 2023 where every game launches broken in some way, that felt pretty cool back when this game came out. Also, the graphical overhaul looks absolutely phenomenal, so if you watch the show, I feel like you owe yourself a replay of this game, and why not do it on a brand new PlayStation 5 with a remake that looks and plays incredibly, right? You guys knew I was going to recommend God of War Ragnarok. I mean, what else can I say about it? It's the only game where I went out and bought the collector's edition after it came out, because even though I already had a copy, I really wanted to get that collector's edition for Mjolnir and the controller. They're sitting like right there, yeah, right there on the shelf. I love the game so much. I keep the ring in my backpack that came with the collector's edition all the time. And also the soundtrack. I got the Mondo soundtrack. It's like a 3-disc vinyl and it just sounds so good. This game, I know people love to criticize it and say, oh, it's a walking simulator. And honestly, they say the same thing about The Last of Us. That could not be farther from the truth. And if anyone says that to you, you immediately should know that they have never played God of War Ragnarok, because if you get to the point in the story where it kicks you into the open world, there is so much stuff you can do. Like when you go to all the different realms, you can explore for hours before you even get close to having to do a story mission. So if you want a game, once again, that looks incredible, plays incredible, and has an amazing story, God of War Ragnarok is the one. And also the RPG systems built on top of it and the whole gear system, it's just such a blast to play from from top to bottom, and it's one of the most AAA games ever released, in my opinion. And then finally, Death Stranding I put on here mainly because A, I'm a huge Norman Reedus fan. I love The Walking Dead. It's like my biggest vice, my guilty pleasure. I love The Walking Dead so much. The Daryl Dixon show is incredible. Walking Dead Dead City was great. I'm making my way back through the original show. It's just so good, and I love the comics. So I also love Hideo Kojima. I mean, you guys have heard me talk about Metal Gear all the time, and this is a game that took me a while to appreciate, but once I went back and played it a second time and made my way through this 50-hour epic where you get an incredible story and just get to think about what other ways games can have gameplay besides shooting people, which, you know, I love games where you get to shoot people, but it is nice to see a big AAA game where that's not the whole point of the game, you know what I mean? The soundtrack in this one is really good. It's full of a ton of licensed music. There's also great actors like Margaret Qualley in it. I think I'm gonna like do a replay of it around the winter, but if you've never played it before, this is a good free game to pick up because it did get a PS5 re-release, and it adds in like a factory that's very Metal Gear and kind of teases the second game, which is coming out soon. So I think Death Stranding would be a good pick. Ghost of Tsushima, the director's cut is another one, but I just feel like everyone watching this video has played it before. Definitely don't get Spider-Man Miles Morales or Spider-Man Remastered. Just go spring on the like $50 Ultimate Edition of Miles Morales just so you get the remastered version of Spider-Man for free with it. And Demon's Souls and Returnal are both incredible games, and they feel like PS5 games, but I think a lot of people have figured out ways to get these for pretty cheap. So if you want to maximize your value when you're buying this brand new PS5, I would go for those three I listed first: Last of Us Part 1, Death Stranding Director's Cut, and God of War Ragnarok. As for why Sony is doing this, they really want to hit that 25 million units sold marker by the end of the year, so they obviously feel like they need to put some promotions on. They might have seen a dent from Starfield coming out and having really good sales. I feel like Cyberpunk is going to increase its sales quite a bit, and also having Final Fantasy VII Rebirth coming next year is going to get a lot of people to go back and play Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate. The issue is that game was on PS Plus, so I'm sure a lot of people grabbed it already. So when they're sitting there thinking like, how can we get more PS5 sold when we don't have anything coming out after Spider-Man 2? Well, the easiest way to do that is to do a promotion like this where you get to build your own bundle. What I'm really curious about is if you buy a bundle like the ones that they have with Horizon Forbidden West or Ratchet and Clank or Modern Warfare 2 or God of War, you know, like all these different bundles that come with the game and the PS5, those have been discounted to like $500 lately. So if you could get one of those bundles for $500, I wonder if the PSN would be able to tell that you bought a bundled PS5 and not just a new PS5 with no game. And if it didn't know how to do that, which I would guess it doesn't know how, I feel like you'd be able to still redeem one of these free games, which would be absolutely cool as hell. So at that point, if you could get the bundle for $500 and then the free game, you're basically saving $100 because that's like 2 games for free that come along with your console. I'd say that's a pretty good deal and worth upgrading for. And I'm just hoping so much that this is finally Sony saying, look, we're moving on from the PS4. We're only going to focus on the PS5 going forward. Thank you so much for buying it in these promotions and at launch. We are ready and excited to keep making games for it. Another reason this promotion is happening though, which I think is like extremely obvious, is that the PS5 Slim is right around the corner, and they definitely do not want to have a whole bunch of these original PS5s sitting on a shelf in a warehouse, because as soon as that new PS5 comes out, no one's going to want to go buy the old edition of the PS5. And that doesn't matter if it's worse in any way or like looks uglier because of how fat it is with the detachable disk drive. People who don't watch this channel or aren't on Twitter or rotting their brains learning about every little PlayStation detail, they don't care. They're going to buy the newest version available. So even if they go to the store and see a disc edition PS5 launch model with a free game or the new model without a free game, I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, the normal person will pick the new model, and that's just how it is. So Sony, knowing that they have this new console coming out towards the end of the year or early next year, they very clearly want to clear their stock out of new PS5s, which could explain why there are so many shortages on the Spider-Man 2 plates. I'm assuming that they were only going to sell the plates originally, and then they were like, wait, we have so many of these extra PS5s that we need to get rid of before the PS5 Slim comes out. Why don't we attach the plates to a bunch of PS5s and make a special edition console that comes along with the game and the controller? So if that is the case, that was a smart move, but the goal here is very clear to me. It's to clear out stock of the current PS5 so that when the Slim comes out, they're ready to go with a whole new user base that doesn't have to pick and choose between the original model and the new model, and they don't have to worry about throwing a bunch of those old models on the shelf. So yeah, between now and October 20th, you can pick up a PS5 and get a free game with it. I would just wait and see though, if this deal will work with a bundle, because if you can get that bundle for 500 bucks with like Modern Warfare 2 or something, or Ragnarok, then you bring it home and get a free game. That is really maximizing your value, and that's what I'm all about. All right, so the second news story I have for you guys today is more of a PS5 tip. I have talked about my network here and my issues with it at my house. So if you didn't know, I have a gigabit setup and I have a Wi-Fi mesh. So it's a Wi-Fi 5 gigahertz mesh that goes all over my house. And when I'm hardwired into my PC, I get a gig up and down, and it's awesome when I'm downloading games on Steam. Unfortunately, my PS5 is too far away from my router to do this, but the PS5 over Wi-Fi can get up to like 600 megabits up and down, which is sick. I love that. But getting my PS5 to the point where I've been able to get speeds like that was actually a little bit of a challenge, because if you didn't know, when you connect to a Wi-Fi network, your PS5 will say, hey, I'm setting this automatically so that I'll switch between 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz, because apparently 2.4 is a little bit more stable and reliable, but I've switched it to permanently use 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi in my house, and it works totally fine. I've never dropped a game. I've been in Diablo for hours at a time over the summer, and I was recently playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, and it worked great. So I don't think this is going to screw anything up for you by changing this. So all you have to do is go to settings, and then network, and then settings, and then set up internet connection, and then hover over your current network and press the options button, so the start button. And once you do that, you should see an option for advanced settings, and under that menu there's an option for Wi-Fi frequency bands, and switch the option from automatic to 5 gigahertz. So if you do that, the PS5 is never going to switch off of 5 gigahertz, which is actually good, because in its automatic mode, like I mentioned, it loves staying on 2.4 gigahertz just to get a more stable connection. And if you have a fast enough internet speed at your house, you will immediately notice the difference in download speeds. And with how slow games download these days because of how big they are, you want to make sure you get every advantage you can. So having a simple fix like this be tucked away so far is honestly kind of crazy, and I would hope that eventually Sony will get to the point where they say, hey, if your PS5 is connected to a Wi-Fi network that's 5 gigahertz, it'll automatically know that and be able to select it. But until then, leaving it on automatic will automatically give you slower speeds, which sucks. Third on my list here, I just wanted to let you guys know that the 8 terabyte PlayStation 5 SSD is now available from Sabrent, but it's going to cost you quite a bit of money. We just saw a PS5 update that bumped up the supported storage from, I think, 4 terabytes to double that to 8 terabytes. And I was like, I don't even know if there's an 8 terabyte SSD out there that has the speeds required for the PlayStation 5. And Sabrent is here to save the day with an SSD that'll cost you $1,100. Yes, if you want to get 8 terabytes of storage in your console, which is enough to say that you probably will never run out of games to play on your PS5. Like, you'll just be able to install everything, including PS4, PS2, PS1, PSP, and PS5 games. You're going to pay for it. It is $1,100. Now, at the beginning of the video, I kind of posited the question of whether or not the 8 terabyte PS5 should exist, and honestly, I don't think so. For that price, it's actually kind of insane. Like, if you think about it, if you want to get a PS5 that has 700 gigabytes or so of usable storage, and then add on 8 terabytes, so you get almost 9 terabytes of storage, you're going to be paying like $1,600, which I don't think I need to tell you is basically the price of a PC that can run laps around the PlayStation 5. Like, a 4090 GPU costs around $1,000 right now, and if you pick that up for that extra $600, you can build a PC that'll be able to take advantage of the 4090. You're just probably going to be CPU bottlenecked, but the point stands. If you're paying $1,600 for your PlayStation 5, the only reason to do that is if you want to have every single PS5 exclusive downloaded to it, and honestly, I don't necessarily think it's worth it. But these prices will come down over time, and I feel like by the PS6, the standard of storage we're expecting will be much higher, just because games seem to never stop getting bigger as they come out. As frustrating as it is, we probably will eventually one day need 8 terabytes of storage in the PS6 or 7. Now, of course, as always, the link is down in the description, but once again, I am not encouraging buying this just because adding $1,100 onto your PS5's already $500 purchase doesn't necessarily seem like the wisest use of money to me, but it's there if you want to take advantage of it. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you today, so make sure you let me know what you think down in the comments below. Remember to subscribe and set your notifications to all if you haven't already. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and shape on.